Bruce Lee was a Hong Kong-American martial artist and actor. He was the founder of Jeet Kune Do, a hybrid martial arts philosophy drawing from different combat disciplines that is sometimes credited with paving the way for the combat sport mixed martial arts. Wikipedia. Born, November 27, 1940, Chinese Hospital, San Francisco, California, United States. Died, July 20, 1973, age 32 years, Kowloon Tong, Hong Kong. Children, Brandon Lee, Shannon Lee. Martial arts, Kung Fu, Chinese martial arts, boxing, Jeet Kune Do. Spouse, Linda Lee, M. 1964–1973. Height, 1.72 meters. Bruce Lee remains the greatest icon of martial arts cinema and a key figure of modern popular media. Had it not been for Bruce Lee and his movies in the early 1970s, it's arguable whether or not the martial arts film genre would have ever penetrated and influenced mainstream North American and European cinema and audiences the way it has over the past 4 decades. The influence of East Asian martial arts cinema can be seen today in so many other film genres, including comedies, action, drama, science fiction, horror, and animation, and they all have their roots in the phenomenon that was Bruce Lee. Lee was born Lee Jun Fan, November 27, 1940 in San Francisco, the son of Li Hui-chen, a singer with the Cantonese opera. Approximately 1 year later, the family returned to Kowloon in Hong Kong, and at the age of 5, a young Bruce begins appearing in children's roles in minor films including The Birth of Mankind, 1946, and Fugue Fu Yun, 1948. At the age of 12, Bruce commenced attending La Salle College. Bruce was later beaten up by a street gang, which inspired him to take up martial arts training under the tutelage of Sifu Yip Man, who schooled Bruce in Wing Chun Kung Fu for a period of approximately 5 years. This was the only formalized martial arts training ever undertaken by Lee. The talented and athletic Bruce also took up cha-cha dancing and, at age 18, won a major dance championship in Hong Kong. However, his temper and quick fists got him in trouble with the Hong Kong police on numerous occasions. His parents suggested that he head off to the United States. Lee landed in San Francisco's Chinatown in 1959 and worked in a close relative's restaurant. He eventually made his way to Seattle, Washington, where he enrolled at university to study philosophy and found the time to practice his beloved Kung Fu techniques. In 1963, Lee met Linda Lee Cadwell, aka Linda Emery, later his wife, and also opened his first Kung Fu school at 4750 University Way. During the early half of the 1960s, Lee became associated with many key martial arts figures in the United States, including Kenpo karate expert Ed Parker and Taekwondo master Jin Rhee. He made guest appearances at notable martial arts events, including the Long Beach Nationals. Through one of these tournaments, Bruce met Hollywood hairstylist Jay Sebring, who introduced him to television producer William Dozier. Based on the runaway success of Batman, 1966, Dozier was keen to bring the cartoon character the Green Hornet to television and was on the lookout for an East Asian actor to play the Green Hornet's sidekick, Kato. Around this time, Bruce also opened a second Kung Fu school in Oakland, California, and relocated to Oakland to be closer to Hollywood. Bruce's screen test was successful, and The Green Hornet, 1966, starring Van Williams, aired in 1966 to 1967 with mixed success. His fight scenes were sometimes obscured by unrevealing camera angles, but his dedication was such that he insisted his character behave like a perfect bodyguard, keeping his eyes on whoever might be a threat to his employer except when the script made this impossible. The show was cancelled after only 1 season, 26 episodes, but by this time Lee was receiving more fan mail than the series' nominal star. He then opened a third branch of his Kung Fu school in Los Angeles and began providing personalized martial arts training to celebrities, including film stars Steve McQueen and James Coburn, as well as screenwriter Sterling Siliphant. In addition, he refined his prior knowledge of Wing Chun and incorporated aspects of other fighting styles such as traditional boxing and Okinawan karate. He also developed his own unique style Jeet Kune Do, way of the intercepting fist. Another film opportunity then came his way as he landed the small role of a standover man named Winslow Wong who intimidates Private Eye James Garner in Marlowe, 1969. Wong pays a visit to Garner and proceeds to demolish the investigator's office with his fists and feet, finishing off with a spectacular high kick that shatters the light fixture. With this further exposure of his talents, Bruce then scored several guest appearances as a martial arts instructor to blind Private Eye James Franciscus on the television series Longstreet, 1971. With his minor success in Hollywood and money in his pocket, Bruce returned for a visit to Hong Kong and was approached by film producer Raymond Chow, who had recently started Golden Harvest Productions. Chow was keen to utilize Lee's strong popularity amongst young Chinese fans, and offered him the lead role in The Big Boss, 1971. In it, Lee plays a distant cousin coming to join relatives working at an ice house, where murder, corruption, and drug running lead to his character's adventures and display of kung fu expertise. The film was directed by Wei Lo, shot in Thailand on a very low budget and in terrible living conditions for cast and crew. However, when it opened in Hong Kong, the film was an enormous hit. Chow knew he had struck box office gold with Lee and quickly assembled another script entitled Fist of Fury, 1972. The second film, with a slightly bigger budget, was again directed by Wei Lo and was set in Shanghai in the year 1900, with Lee returning to his school to find that his beloved master has been poisoned by the local Japanese karate school. Once again, he uncovers the evildoers and sets about seeking revenge on those responsible for murdering his teacher and intimidating his school. The film features several superb fight sequences and, at the film's conclusion, Lee refuses to surrender to the Japanese police and seemingly leaps to his death in a hail of police bullets. Once more, Hong Kong streets were jammed with thousands of fervent Chinese movie fans who could not get enough of the fearless Bruce Lee, and his second film went on to break the box office records set by the first. Lee then set up his own production company, Concord Productions, and set about guiding his film career personally by writing, directing, and acting in his next film, The Way of the Dragon, 1972. A bigger budget meant better locations and opponents, with the new film set in Rome, Italy, and additionally starring Hapkido expert In-Shik Huang, karate legend Robert Wall, and seven-time U.S. karate champion Chuck Norris. Bruce plays a seemingly simple country boy sent to assist at a cousin's restaurant in Rome and finds his cousins are being bullied by local thugs for protection. By now, Lee's remarkable success in East Asia had come to the attention of Hollywood film executives, and a script was hastily written pitching him as a secret agent penetrating an island fortress. Warner Brothers financed the film and also insisted on B-movie tough guy John Saxon starring alongside Lee to give the film wider appeal. The film culminates with another show-stopping fight sequence between Lee and the key villain, Han, in a maze of mirrors. Shooting was completed in and around Hong Kong in early 1973, and in the subsequent weeks Bruce was involved in completing overdubs and looping for the final cut. Various reports from friends and co-workers cite that he was not feeling well during this period, and on July 20, 1973, he lay down at the apartment of actress Betty Ting Pei after taking a headache medicine called Equagesic and was later unable to be revived. A doctor was called and Lee was taken to hospital by ambulance and pronounced dead that evening. The official finding was death due to a cerebral edema, caused by a reaction to the headache tablet Equagesic. Fans worldwide were shattered that their virile idol had passed at such a young age, and nearly 30,000 fans filed past his coffin in Hong Kong. A second, much smaller ceremony was held in Seattle, Washington, and Bruce was laid to rest at Lakeview Cemetery in Seattle with pallbearers including Steve McQueen, James Coburn, and Dan Inosanto. Enter the Dragon, 1973, was later released in the mainland United States, and was a huge hit with audiences there, which then prompted National General Films to actively distribute his 3 prior movies to U.S. theaters. Each was a box office smash. Fans throughout the world were still hungry for more Bruce Lee films, and thus remaining footage, completed before his death, of Lee fighting several opponents including Dan Inosanto, Hugh O'Brien, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was crafted into another film titled Game of Death, 1978. The film used a look-alike and shadowy camera work to be substituted for the real Lee in numerous scenes. The film is a poor addition to the lineup and is only saved by the final 20 minutes and the footage of the real Bruce Lee battling his way up the tower. Amazingly, this same shoddy process was used to create Game of Death 2, 1980, with a look-alike and more stunt doubles interwoven with a few brief minutes of footage of the real Bruce Lee. Tragically, his son Brandon Lee, an actor and martial artist like his father, was killed in a freak accident on the set of The Crow, 1994. Bruce Lee was not only an amazing athlete and martial artist, but he possessed genuine superstar charisma, and through a handful of films he left behind an indelible impression on the tapestry of modern cinema. Family. Spouse. Linda Lee Cadwell, August 17, 1964 to July 20, 1973, his death, 2 children. Children. Brandon Lee. Shannon Lee. Parents. Hui-Chan Lee. Grace Ho. Relatives. Jenna Fei Lee, sibling. Peter Lee Young-sum, sibling. Chow-Yun Lee, sibling. Trademarks. Often had a scene in his films where in a fight, he gets wounded. Standing stunned, he tastes his own blood and then he goes berserk, wiping out any opponent in his path. Made animal sounds when he fought to unnerve his foes and focus his strength. His characters were often proudly Chinese and battled foes who racially oppressed his people, as in when he smashed a "No Dogs or Chinese Allowed" sign with a flying kick. Use of Jeet Kune Do, a form of martial arts he invented himself in which freedom of reaction was far more important than rigid form. Bowl haircut, lightning-fast moves and reflexes. Extremely well-defined body and muscles. In at least one sequence in most of his movies, he would use a nunchaku against his opponents. Fighting shirtless. Trivia. Once performed a kick so fast, it had been slowed down by editors for fear that it would look like it was sped up. Was capable of doing push-ups with a 250-pound man on his back and could do push-ups with only one finger. Spoke English, Cantonese, Japanese, and Mandarin. Bruce Lee Jun Fan Yuan Kam, Bruce Lee's full birth name, was born in the Year of the Dragon, 1940, at the Hour of the Dragon, between 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. According to Hong Kong stuntman Philip Ko, Lee was challenged by a tiger-slash-crane kung fu stylist, an extra on Enter the Dragon, 1973, who claimed Lee was a phony. Lee, who was furious at the claim, accepted the challenge to prove that his martial arts were indeed the real deal. The fight, which took place on the film set, only lasted 30 seconds, with Lee pummeling his challenger with a series of straight punches to the face, low-line kicks to his shins/knees/thighs, and finally ended with the guy being smashed to the wall with his hair pulled and his arms trapped by Lee. After Lee forced the kung fu stylist to submit, he showed some class by telling him to go back to work instead of firing him. This fight was witnessed by the film's producer, Fred Weintraub, and Robert Wall. Quotes. Absorb what is useful, discard what is not, add what is uniquely your own. Simplicity is the last step of art. A teacher is never a giver of truth, he is a guide, a pointer to the truth that each student must find for himself. A good teacher is merely a catalyst. When an opportunity in a fight presents itself, I don't hit, it hits all by itself. Empty your mind. Become formless and shapeless like water. When water is poured into a cup, it becomes the cup. When water is poured into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Be water, my friend. To know oneself is to study oneself in action with another person. If you want to understand the truth in martial arts, to see any opponent clearly, you must throw away the notion of styles or schools, prejudices, likes and dislikes, and so forth. Then, your mind will cease all conflict and come to rest. In this silence, you will see totally and freshly. I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. The key to immortality is first living a life worth remembering. Don't think, feel. It is like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger, or you will miss all that heavenly glory. A quick temper will make a fool of you soon enough. I don't believe in different ways of fighting now. I mean, unless human beings have 3 arms and 3 legs, then we will have a different way of fighting. But basically we all have 2 arms and 2 legs, so that is why I believe there should be only one way of fighting, and that is no way. If you always put limits on what you can do, physical or anything else, it'll spread over into the rest of your life. It'll spread over into your work, into your mortality, into your entire being. There are no limits. There are plateaus, but you must not stay there, you must go beyond them. If it kills you, it kills you. You must be shapeless, formless, like water. When you pour water in a cup, it becomes the cup. When you pour water in a bottle, it becomes the bottle. When you pour water in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Water can drip and it can crash. Become like water, my friend. Ever since The Big Boss, 1971, there seems to be a wave, a hot wave in fact, of finding another Bruce Lee among all types of people, particularly martial artists. Ranging from karate men, hapkido men, judo men, etc., etc. Forgetting about whether or not they possess the ability to act, just so long as they can halfway decent kick or punch and know a few tricks or gimmicks, the producers will make them a star. Now, let's stop about here. Is it that simple to become a star? Well, I can assure you it's not that simple. Also, I can tell you that as more of Bruce Lee's films are shown, the audience will soon realize not only in acting ability but in physical skill as well. They will see the difference. Of course, it is only movie making, people will say, but certainly the audiences are not so insensitive as to not be able to see and judge for themselves. Whatever we're not changing, that's what we're also choosing. Salaries. Fist of Fury, 1972, $7,500. The Big Boss, 1972, $7,500. Longstreet, 1971, $2,000/episode. The Green Hornet, 1966, $400/episode.